Welcome everyone to this second webinar to discuss AMPI. It follows on from the success of the first webinar where we heard from Tony Bannon, OBE, Ruth Mallars-Ray, OBE, Gareth Edwards and Paul Simkis. I don't think we've got any OBEs on this panel, but I stand to be corrected. But we have got another stellar panel of speakers. And today the focus is very much on business. We're going to be hearing from two businesses and two experts. So our panel today is made up of Derry Faulkner, Manager Electronic Systems Engineering at Fives Landis in Keighley. I know he'll correct me on my pronunciation. Steve Bennett, Managing Director of CR Solutions. Richard Perkins, Business Development Manager at AMPI. And Rob Woolen, the Industrial Engagement Manager at AMPI. Welcome one and all. I'll start, if I may, with Derry. You're based in Keighley. Is it pronounced Fives or Fives Landis?
Thieves, it's French. I'm sorry about the phone. I've just killed that. No, it's a French company, Thieves Group. It was Thieves Lille, and we've been owned by them for probably 10 years now. They're a large industrial provider of industrial equipment in automotive, cement, sugar, and various other things. So we've been owned by them and that's been a really good relationship. They've allowed us to invest here and helped us with business worldwide.
So your roots, not yours personally, but the company's roots, date back more than 200 years.
Yeah, that's correct.
You make CNC grinding machines, don't you? I think. What sort of turnover and what sort of staff numbers have you got on your Keighley site, Derry?
Okay, so on this site, we're currently got a turnover between 30 and 40 million a year, and the staff numbers are probably about 230 at the moment. And we've been manufacturing mainly grinding machines for automotive, large truck, ship, and the majority of the business has been abroad recently, China, India, South America, and also working with our sister company in the USA.
You just mentioned earlier, you work heavily in the automobile industry. Am I right in thinking you've sold to F1 teams as well, Derry?
Yeah, that was really exciting to be involved in an F1 project. I mean, if we look at our normal business model, that we're selling machines that have to be really high production. If you look at an automotive crankshaft, we're talking about grinding all the features on that in 60 to 90 seconds. And with the Formula One, quality was the absolute thing, and we were 10 to 15 times longer grinding those components to get them to the tolerances and the requirements of the F1 team. So it's really exciting to work with some really brilliant people in the F1 team.
Now, you've been a member of the Manufacturing Technologies Association, MTA for short, for a long time. You're good friends with Tony Bannon, the architect of AMPI. When did you first become aware of AMPI?
Well, it was all through the Manufacturing Technologies Association and MPL, really. Paul Shaw and Tony, Paul Shaw at MPL and Tony at Holroyd, so initiated a meeting, and I've really been really excited to have been with that ever since the first meetings, both at Huddersfield and in the basement in Holroyd, which was quite interesting. So it's been a real interesting sort of development to have been involved with AMPI right from the start and see it grow.
You're working with AMPI on a couple of projects. Can you tell us a bit about those projects?
Yeah, there's two projects we're working on. The main one is to do with a new concept of grinding machine that involves two rotary axes and a linear axis rather than traditional axes. And we originally developed this for the optics, but now we're converting it to a much more industrial machine for bearings, and we now have pretty much all the bearing companies around the world taking an interest, and we have orders for the first three, I think, that will go into companies' R&D centres early next year, subject to supply chain issues. But so it's been really good to have the funding from AMPI for those. The other one's the CNC project, where we're opening up our CNC to partners. And unlike a lot of companies, we actually make our own CNC. We don't make any hardware. It's all based on PC hardware and some cards, but we develop all the software ourselves. And we're currently working with Huddersfield University, putting a controller into them for them to, and they have full access to all our software. And so they've got a big project going on using our controller to specifically to gather a lot of data. We're probably the world class for gathering data out of the CNCs, which really suits the work that Huddersfield are doing. I was there yesterday as a matter of interest, discussing that and other projects that we're looking forward to.
Okay, you mentioned funding there, which a lot of people who are looking at this webinar might not be aware of. You managed to secure some upfront funding, didn't you, through your association with AMPI? Can you tell us about that and how much have you acquired?
Yeah, well, as part of the initial offering for AMPI, we were looking at, and because we were involved up front, we were looking at the work we were doing on this bearing grinder as a specific project that would go in with the AMPI offering. And between the two projects, we're probably over the 2-year period that this is running, we'll be looking at getting about £1 million of support on match funding to help us develop this bearing machine and do the work with the CNC, making it available to partners.
AMPI's not out of the ground yet, obviously, but plans are very much in place. But you've already employed people on the back of your relationship with AMPI. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, as part of the AMPI on the software side, for instance, I've actually employed 2 people. One was a move from our other division, but specifically to work on the Huddersfield part of the funding. And then we've employed a new software graduate who's a really key person working on the core of our CNC. So he's been here for about 5 months now. In addition, we've also taken on a mechanical engineering graduate as well. And when I had to think about it since we last talked, we've also brought on board 6 apprentices that we're using because we have to upskill for some of the projects that we're doing. So it's been good news for employment here, and particularly the high skill set ones of the engineers, where we're looking at world-class engineering requirements.
Steve's going to talk in a second about how they've invested in youth. You mentioned earlier your association with the University of Huddersfield. You work with a number of regions universities, don't you? And that's something that AMPI have helped facilitate.
Yeah, working with I've known Andrew Longstaff at Huddersfield for a good period, and through the MTA and through the work with AMPI. But now we're getting down to having projects that we can work together on. I mentioned the CNC one. We're also working, we were there yesterday discussing some work packages that Huddersfield want to do, and it'll be very useful to us. One of the ones that they want that we discussed yesterday was all about how we calibrate this new machine that we're making, which is going to be a Huddersfield University project. So it's now really good that we can work with the educational institutions without and have the funding to back it.
There'll be a lot of businesses watching this, Derry, thinking, how can AMPI help me? What's your advice to them, and how important is it to make the industry exciting to young people? Because with the best will in the world, we're not the next generation, are we?
No, that's correct. And, I'm not far off retirement. So that is really key to why I am really excited about AMPI, because we do need to make engineering an interesting career for young university graduates and people who've done masters and PhDs. I think in the UK we do suffer with the typical idea of what an engineer is. Unfortunately, we tend to call people who fix washing machines engineers, which is really bad in my view. So I hope that AMPI can sort of lead, lead the charge in telling people and young people what engineering is really about. So I think that's a challenge for all of us going forward.
Derry, thanks for warming us up on this very cold morning. Steve Bennett, Director of CR Solutions. And would I be right in thinking, Steve, if I was to describe you, that you basically make the machines that make the machines?
We make we make the machines that make things. So, we work across several industry sectors. We work with pharmaceutical companies, food, beverages, aerospace industries. And if there's a challenge that they have in their manufacturing processes, we're there to help find a solution to that. So, for instance, recently we did a job for a large pharmaceutical company who wanted to assemble swab kits. I'm sure you know why, and they wanted to do them very quickly. So we designed a line that would assemble the swab kits for them at 200 a minute. And that took a year. That was a big project. So it can be anything from something that finds holes in pizza bases because they've been overstretched as they come through the former, to measuring the stringers on an Airbus wing.
How big are you at CR Solutions?
Oh, well, compared to Derry, we're quite modest. We're 17 engineers and we turn over around 3 million, £3 million.
Something you've got in common with Steve, though, is that you found out about AMPI through a knowledge transfer partnership that you're doing with the University of Huddersfield.
That's right. Yeah.
First response when you found out about AMPI, Steve?
Well, I was a bit wary, if I'm honest, because it seemed to be geared up towards the machine tool industry, which isn't what we are. We're not a machine tool builder like Derry's company. We're an integrator and specialist machine builder. But as they then hooked me up with Tony Bannon, who convinced me that we were the right fit, because Tony's quite a persuasive chap when he wants to be. And he came to see us. I've known Tony for some time because we have looked at projects together with Holroyd's in the past. And he came to see us and had a look at us, and he said, no, this is exactly what AMPI needs, a tech company that's using cutting edge technology to put into industry. We do work with machine tools. We do make certain additions to or enhancements to machine tools like robot feeders, and we've actually got a project at the moment in Huddersfield. I don't know if you've seen it, Derry, as you go into the main courtyard there on the right where the engineering department is. There's a robot with a large KUKA robot, 125 kilo payload with a spindle sat on the end of it, and we've connected that up to a Siemens CNC, and they're doing research for how they can get some decent resolution out of a robot, which is, they can crack that. That's a real game changer for the industry, I think.
So, Steve, you mentioned that you got visited by Tony Bannon, much like A Christmas Carol. You got your visit from, the ghost of AMPI future, and you saw the future. Why do you think AMPI is a game changer for?
Okay, well, we're in probably one of the poor areas of the northwest in Rochdale. There's not a lot of skills anymore here. There's a lot of imbalance in the wealth, I think, and it has got a very deep and proud history in engineering where we are, and we're very proud to be in Rochdale. But it was always frustrating to me that we couldn't get, we can't recruit the graduates, we can't recruit software and electrical engineers very easily because of, one, our geographical location, but also the perception, as Derry's said, that engineering's going down a pit and full of grease and muck all the time. That's just not the case anymore. They're more akin to scientists than engineers now. So when we discussed it with Tony, one of the things that I said was, look, the biggest restriction to growth for us, and I can't speak for anybody else, is skills. That's the one that stops us dead. We could grow the company a lot faster if we could get access to the right skill base. So one of the things that I would like to see from AMPI, and Tony assured me that would be the case, is engaging young people. We're not just at university level. I think you're a bit late then. What we need to do is to engage people at school level before they leave school, so that they've got the information to make a decision about their career going forward, and they understand better what engineering is about. And there are lots of different fields. Of course there are. I mean, you take one discipline like a CNC machine, there's vision systems, there's artificial intelligence, there's servos, there's electronics, there's mechanical design. There's lots of different kinds of engineering to go at. And finding those people with that predisposition towards it is key, I think. I believe they're here.
Steve, you've already expanded your apprentice division on the back of AMPI.
Yeah.
Do you see AMPI becoming a collective of businesses where you all help each other?
I do. I see that. I do see that. I'm already drawing on experiences from Tony and other members from the AMPI, from people at the MPL, when we're looking at projects, and the universities as well. We've got a very good relationship with Huddersfield University, and we're drawing on their knowledge, and they're drawing on ours. So yeah, I do see that. We've also recruited we've acquired funding for a project as well through AMPI, and that's enabled us to recruit a graduate engineer to start on the design for it, and two new apprentices. And that's a direct result of AMPI.
Okay, just final thing, you founded CR Solutions 27 years ago, straight out of school. What's your advice to businesses watching this webinar, Steve?
I mean, one of the things I've realized quite late in my career is the importance of having colleagues and a network of friendly, similar agencies and companies around you. The advice I've received from people like Tony and Andrew at the University of Huddersfield has been invaluable. And I would say to them, whatever you're doing, try and create a network of friendly companies that you can work with in the future. And even if it's just talking about where you are with projects, it's invaluable. And the other thing is to engage young people. We do our best work when we're young. If you can get a young, talented staff and couple that with the experience of some of the more experienced and senior people going through their career, you've got the perfect mix. We do have a skills gap in this country. A lot of the people who are doing the work still are our age. Like myself and Derry, and then there's a huge gap, and you've got people in their 20s and early 30s coming through, and there's nothing in between really. And I think we've got to look at fixing that.
Thanks very much, Steve. So we've heard from two businesses. Now going to come to two of the people whose job it is to help businesses really, get involved with AMPI. Starting with Richard Perkins, Business Development Manager at AMPI. Richard, we've heard just from Steve and from Derry, two businesses. Can you explain what your role is at AMPI?
Morning, Chris. Yeah, my role is that of the Business Development Manager, working outside of the Rochdale Development Agency. So essentially, I'm there to go out and find the businesses that can access the AMPI support and look at the different initiatives we can offer them in order to help them grow and develop the machinery of the future. And
perhaps I should have asked this question at the start. Hopefully people will look at the first webinar, but how would you describe what AMPI is?
So AMPI is a new initiative which is there to support businesses that are involved in new machines and the technology and its people. And it's all about the future machines and technology and how we can actually support them. with input from the different universities and also National Physical Laboratory, and again collaboration with the different businesses as Steve and Derry have alluded to, in the hopes that we can help them support to come up with machines of the future.
And now you offer a lot more than expertise. Both Steve and Derry have spoken about the fact that they've managed to secure some funding as well. What funding is available for businesses?
So at present, we've got a live project called Innovation for Machinery, and that's specifically focusing on short, sharp projects with businesses. So perhaps they're in the process of devising a new piece of machinery or kit or some tooling or something that goes in to support that. But perhaps they don't have their own capabilities in-house, or they've kept a stumbling block, they don't have the knowledge in-house, or potentially the time. So that's aimed at supporting businesses getting access to different academics at the universities and NPL, and the hope that they can look at what the issue and problem is and then hopefully come up with a solution with them. And that's up to 50 hours of support, which is fully funded for them, whereby they can work with one or more academics to, as I said, come up with a solution to that issue, hopefully.
So how much money have you actually got burning a hole in your pocket at the moment, Richard? Can you say?
We've got up to just over £7 million, which is unallocated at present because we are in the process of devising a criteria. So there's certain things we're doing at the moment around a technology roadmap. So we want to look at where the technology of the future is going to be, the materials, etc., and work back from that in terms of what the machines are that will be required in order to make those the different materials, the different be it automobile or rail or whatever it may be. And then once we understand where the technology is going, then we can say, right, well, this is where we need to deploy that money into different businesses to ensure that we can actually then come up with that type of machinery for them. And
geographically, I mean, in terms of AMPI's position, you're working, one side with West Yorkshire and the other side with Greater Manchester, aren't you? That's your two target areas.
Yeah, so essentially it was Strength in Places funding that we bid for initially, and the Strength in Places was that Greater Manchester and West Yorkshire, between them have a strength in those particular places around the advanced machinery sector, and it was felt that those were the areas that we would focus on initially, sort of like a pilot, I think, where we proved that we'd demonstrate that it would work, and then we'd roll it out on a regional and more national basis. So that then there's other businesses around the rest of the country that can tap into the support.
And just final question before I come to Rob Woolen. What's your advice to businesses watching this, Richard?
So, well, my advice would be get in touch with us, really. You've heard from Derry and from Steve how their businesses have benefited as a result of their support. We're very keen to hear from industry as well. It's not us telling industry what they need to do. It's industry coming to us and saying, these are the issues and problems that we're facing, and this is the kind of support that we need. We are actually looking to build a new facility over the coming years, and we very much want business input into that to say, look, if this was on your doorstep, what would you use it for? What are you missing in your business where you think you'd benefit from having, a certain kind of business, a certain kind of provider, a certain kind of academic that might work from this facility, where you can rub shoulders with them, you can grab a coffee with them, you can grab an hour and the likes of Steve and Derry and others might be there where you can get some expertise from them.
Thanks very much, Richard. Rob Woolen, Engagement Manager at AMPI. Rob, interesting thing, actually. I think your name is Woolen and you worked in the wool industry for 25 years, didn't you?
You've clearly done your research, Chris. Yes. I'm sure my interview all those years ago wouldn't be allowable under legislation these days, but I did figure that the fact I was a non-smoking rugby union player with a surname of Woolen was why I got the job in the first place.
Now, we've heard a lot about the University of Huddersfield and other universities. You're linked into them, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm technically an employee of the University of Huddersfield, but I work on behalf of the entire AMPI consortium.
Richard mentioned about this short-term funding for a maximum of 50 days. Can you tell us a bit about that? And if I'm a business watching this, how can you relate that to me?
Yeah, I mean, so this program is open. We give it an acronym, as most things do within academia. So we call it I4M, Innovation for Machinery. The project's open. There's a portal where you can register your interest in the project, and there is significant money. There's in excess of £1 million available. We have live projects now where the academic and science partners are working to develop support into the businesses. And, we want more. There's money to spend and we don't want to give it back to the government.
Okay, and you've also got some flexible funding available for larger projects, I think, as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We've got a kind of notional £6 million available, but of that, up to £500,000 has already been allocated to a skills project. So really interested in Steve's comment there about future skills and Derry's comments about the skills needs within their business. So we're looking at a program of advanced skills, Industry 4 type skills, CPD short course programs to upskill current workforce and future workforce around the advanced technology which will be needed for advanced machinery. But in addition to that, we have £5.5 million at least unallocated, which will go to future collaborative research and development projects, the kind of projects which Derry and Steve have just been talking about earlier.
I speak to a lot of businesses, and one of the problems that they raised over a period of time is that the gap between academia and the workplace. However, what you're doing is you're bridging that gap, aren't you? So there's businesses like Steve's and Derry's that need the input of academia, and there's academics who need real life work experience of working in businesses as well. So you can bring those two together, can't you?
Yeah, I think that gets to the heart of the role which Richard and myself have in the AMPI consortium. We talk about industrial need. Industrial need genuinely is at the heart of the AMPI proposition. We want to hear from industry about their needs, and Richard and myself understand the challenges of business. We understand the challenges of manufacturing, and we can use that knowledge and experience to translate and bring industry and academia together in a seamless and painless fashion. That a lot of businesses, certainly the businesses of Steve's size, can be frightened about engaging with academia. They certainly shouldn't be frightened about engaging with academia, but the job that Richard and me have is just to make that even easier than they could possibly imagine.
Last couple of questions from me, Rob. But why do you think AMPI can be such a game changer for business?
If you look at the successful manufacturing nations, by and large, they have a successful advanced machinery industry as well to back that up. Not only do they have a successful machinery manufacturing industry, they have a centre of excellence within their country that supports the development of next generation machinery. And that's something that the UK to date has lacked. So AMPI brings some real focus to the advanced machinery sector and gives the UK economy something that it's been missing for a long, long time. And it hopefully will lead to a resurgence in the machinery manufacturing building capability, not only of the north of England, not only of Greater Manchester and West Yorkshire, but more broadly across the UK, brings it some real focus and helps drive the next generation of machinery that will make the next generation of products, which Steve and Derry very eloquently explained.
Yeah, it all comes down to those two words, advanced machinery. Final message really from you. Any businesses watching this who've heard about AMPI, want to know a bit more, have watched this and heard from Steve and Derry and think, well, I can benefit from that. What would your message be to them?
The same message that Richard just gave. Just get in touch. We're here to listen. We're here to help. We're here to broker the relationships between business and academia and science. And we have grant funding to make it much more affordable. So, Steve's company, 17 people. It is the bedrock of the UK manufacturing economy. There's a lot of talk about SMEs, but SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses, owner-managed businesses, they genuinely are the bedrock of UK manufacturing. And there's grant funding available to make access to world-class science and research much more affordable.
Yeah, here on our doorstep in Rochdale. Thank you very much, Rob, to you. Thank you very much to Derry Faulkner, to Steve Bennett, to Richard Perkins, and you just heard from him, Rob Woolen as well. My name is Chris Maguire. Like I say, if I can be of any assistance or anybody on this group can, I think everyone's hooked into LinkedIn as well. But AMPI very much is here to move the dial, change the world, and to really cement the region's reputation. So thanks very much. Take care. Until the next time, goodbye.